In this podcast episode, Lex Fridman interviews Jordan Jonas, who was the winner of Season 6 of the survival reality show Alone. The show involves 10 contestants being dropped off alone in a remote wilderness location with just 10 items of their choosing. They must survive as long as possible, with the last person remaining being declared the winner. Jordan explains that contestants are truly alone, filming themselves with no crew present. He describes the initial overwhelming feeling of realizing you won't eat again until you procure food yourself. Jordan talks about how, after an initial adjustment period of frustration, he got into a zone that reminded him of his time living in Siberia. He discusses how important it is to quickly accept and learn from failures in a survival situation, giving the example of missing his first shot at a moose. Rather than getting discouraged, he used it as motivation to try a new strategy of building fences to funnel game. Jordan provides details on the items he chose to bring, including an axe, saw, fishing gear, and bow and arrow. He explains his strategy of setting up numerous animal snares while also actively hunting and fishing. He describes in detail his successful moose hunt on day 20, which was a pivotal moment in his time on the show. He talks through the emotions and decision-making involved in tracking the wounded moose and waiting for it to expire. Jordan emphasizes the importance of being adaptable in survival situations, as conditions are always changing. He explains his approach of using fishing and trapping to sustain himself until successful big game hunting provides longer-term food security. He describes his daily routine of checking trap lines, fishing, and looking for hunting opportunities. When discussing shelter building, Jordan advocates for starting with a simple structure that meets basic needs, then gradually improving it over time as energy allows. He contrasts this with contestants who focus too much initial effort on elaborate shelters. He explains his preference for axes over saws in most wilderness situations, detailing the versatility and efficiency of a well-designed axe. Jordan talks about the mental challenges of extended isolation, including confronting past regrets and unresolved issues that surface when alone with one's thoughts for long periods. He describes experiencing profound joy and gratitude after successfully hunting the moose, calling it one of the happiest moments of his life due to the direct connection between effort and survival. The conversation shifts to Jordan's earlier life experiences that prepared him for survival challenges. He describes spending time as a young adult riding freight trains and hitchhiking across America, which he saw as a rite of passage that expanded his worldview. He talks about the freedom and self-reliance he discovered through this lifestyle, as well as the interesting characters he encountered. Jordan then explains how he ended up living in Siberia, initially traveling there to help build an orphanage. This led to him living with native families and eventually spending time with indigenous reindeer herders and fur trappers in remote areas. He details the challenges of learning the Russian language and adapting to the harsh lifestyle. Jordan recounts some of his more harrowing experiences in Siberia, including getting lost while traveling between trapping cabins and nearly dying after accidentally ingesting gasoline. He describes the mental fortitude required to push through extreme physical discomfort and potentially life-threatening situations. The conversation takes on a more philosophical tone as Jordan reflects on what he's learned about human nature and resilience through his experiences. He talks about witnessing both the darkness and light in people, particularly in the contrast between native people's behavior in villages versus when living traditionally in nature. He discusses his spiritual journey and how his experiences have shaped his faith. He describes choosing to maintain his Christian beliefs during his time on Alone, seeing it as a stabilizing force and source of purpose. Jordan emphasizes the importance of living out one's ideals rather than just professing them. The topic of mortality arises, with Jordan sharing his thoughts on confronting death in survival situations. He talks about finding inspiration in his family history, including grandparents who survived genocide, and his father's grace in dealing with declining health. Jordan reflects on how these examples have given him strength to face adversity. Jordan shares his views on the relationship between humans and nature, acknowledging both its beauty and brutality. He discusses the indifference of nature to human suffering, while also describing the profound connections that can form with animals in wilderness settings. The conversation touches on the challenges facing modern society, with Jordan expressing both optimism about human progress and concern over increasing societal divisions. He advocates for people to spend more time in nature as a way to gain perspective and reconnect with what's truly important in life. After the interview portion, Lex Fridman offers some of his own reflections prompted by recent events. He comments on the attempted assassination of Donald Trump, using it as a springboard to discuss the dangers of extreme political polarization. He emphasizes the importance of transparency in government and institutions to combat the spread of destructive conspiracy theories. He concludes by calling for unity and a rejection of artificially divisive rhetoric from media and political figures.